Sponsored by Surfshark. I say it all the time. When you're shopping for a new smartphone, fun is an underrated consideration. And of the 3 new foldables Samsung just announced, this is by far the funnest. So I decided to have fun reviewing it by testing its cameras, battery, and its ability to LARP as a laptop during a whirlwind weekend at a fanciful destination, a regional American street fair that's all about pickles. I'm Mr. Mobile, and while the Galaxy Flip7 may not be the most fun flip phone of the year, I do think it's the most important. I picked up my review unit about a week ago at the official launch in Brooklyn, and what a refreshing change of pace to have something nice to say at a Samsung launch.
I just picked it up and I was like, what? Oh my God.
After years of stagnation in the very category it helped create, the recalcitrant Samsung has reawakened. And you just need to put the Flip7 side by side with its predecessor to see the result. Gone is the blocky thickness, the undersized cover screen. In their stead, svelte sides, an edge-to-edge flex window, and a water drop fold nestled within a revised hinge that finally brings Samsung in line with the more minimal creases of Motorola, Xiaomi, Huawei, Honor, Oppo, Vivo, even Tecno. Better late than never. And while the Flip7 doesn't have the organic curves of some of those competitors, Samsung's boxier aluminum Invictus 2 enclosure has proved itself before. Recall my Flip6 review unit falling from a speeding city bike last year and only suffering a few pits and dents. I've broken more than one Motorola razr with lighter drops than that. Samsung has also restored the joy of saturation to its lineup this year with deep blue shadow and coral red color options. Thank you. And the new hinge and hidden magnets make the Flip7 clap shut with the most satisfying snap in the space. The only thing I miss from the Flip6 is the fun little flourish of color accents on the camera lenses. But Samsung has added some software touches to highlight them when you're using the camera in selfie mode. The main display is larger than before, and in a move that'll make video watchers happy, it's also a little wider. Those of us psychopaths who read books on Kindle like this are unaffected. Honestly, though, this isn't the screen we need to be talking about. The flex window on the cover is now 4.1 inches, edging out even the Razr Ultra by a hair, but Samsung still underutilizes it. Now pay attention here, because we're not saying the same thing everybody else is. It's not the complaint about the added step you need to take to enable full apps on the cover. Yeah, that's annoying, but you only do it once on initial setup, and then you never think about it again. Actually, Samsung is more helpful than others here. It gives you an option for which aspect ratio you want to run those apps in, for the ones that don't like reflowing into a square. It's clever. Now, my frustration is how the cover display software just wants to get in your way all the time. Call an Uber and tap the notification about your approaching car, and you'll only get a prompt to open the phone, even if you've enabled the Uber app to run on the Flex window. Same with almost any messaging app. If you want to reply without opening the phone, well, then you're stuck using Samsung Keyboard, which is a pain if you're running the, in my opinion, superior Gboard on the inner screen, with its totally different layout and speech-to-text engine. You still can't choose your own quick settings toggles, like mobile hotspot. I mean, geez, you can't even rearrange icons on the launcher without opening the phone. Meanwhile, over on the Motorola Razr, you barely need to open the phone for anything if you don't want to. It's the difference between having a tiny window into your phone and having a smartwatch glued to the front of your phone. I think I first made that analogy probably 4 or 5 years ago, and while Samsung's screens have gotten bigger, its ambitions for a cover screen apparently haven't. Now that's because Samsung really caters to the mainstream. I'm sure the mythical average consumer will be unbothered by the focus on simple widgets like timers, calendars, media players, and the new Now bar. That jagged little AI-powered pill, introduced back in January, still isn't wildly useful. And it's weird to see your phone wishing you good times or whatever in the middle of the afternoon. But with a little more personalization, I can picture a world in which its daily briefings become events I actually look forward to. We're going to come back to software, but flip phones, more than most others, live or die on their cameras. So what's the deal with these? I'll show you after this. Using a VPN is like wearing pants. All the important stuff stays private when you step foot outside. That's an analogy from channel sponsor Surfshark, a VPN that keeps your browsing between you and the site you're visiting. How? By routing your connection through any of 3,200 servers in over 100 locations. That makes it harder for your service provider to do things like throttle your connection or charge you more based on the type of content you're streaming. It means you can still get web results from your home country even when you're traveling. Helpful when you want to see prices in dollars versus dinero. And you know those pop-up ads that get so intrusive you can't even read the website underneath? With Surfshark's Clean Web mode, you can knock those out. Go to surfshark.com/MrMobile and use code MrMobile at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. This is insanity. The Galaxy Flip7 was my main camera for Picklesburgh, the decade-old celebration of preserved cucumbers and the Pittsburgh company built on the back of them. It was my first time in the Pennsylvania city, which exceeded my expectations in every way. Indoctrinated by decades of stereotypes and too many episodes of The Mayor of Kingstown, I'd expected a depressed, burned-out steel town. And what I found instead was a kind of mini Manhattan, nestled at the confluence of 3 rivers and connected by some of the most interesting bridges I've ever seen. You can tell I'm properly entering my old man era based on how many of my questions to Gemini concerned these striking structures.
Now, who here likes a good story about a bridge?
And at every turn of my 30-hour adventure, I met friendly, down-to-earth people who made this solo adventure a little less lonely. And as you can see, the Flip7's cameras rarely put me in a pickle, despite packing hardware that's essentially identical to last year. Partially, that's because clamshell phones can cheat, in a way I've talked about a lot. Instead of relying on the inferior front-facing shooter for your self-portraits or walk-and-talks, you can leverage the full-resolution main cameras with their better lenses and bigger sensors, which means when it's time to address your audience, you can deliver better portraits and videos. Here's a sample with audio.
All right, I know you're asking it already, so I may as well just tell you now. Why Picklesburgh? Well, as you may or may not have noticed for the past year or so, I've been less happy than at other times in my life. And at some point I made a to-do list of things that might make me happy. And one of those things was attend a weird regional festival like Picklesburgh. That was the verbatim note, I think. And I found that note recently, and I don't remember writing it. But I said, well, let me look up and see when this Picklesburgh might be. Well, it was coming up. I had a lot of air miles. The flight cost $11. I was close enough. I live in New York City. It's not that far. So I thought, why not test the Galaxy Z Flip7 at Picklesburgh? And you know what? No regrets whatsoever.
As always, of course, I wish I had more reach with a proper telephoto. But at 50 megapixels, crop zooms like this are often still usable. I love Samsung's dual rec mode for picture-in-picture recording when I want to narrate a scene. In dim settings, like the Starship-themed Spacebar Pittsburgh, I do wish the ultra-wide let in more light. But these are complaints I can leverage against a lot of bar-type phones too, none of which give me the versatility of a clamshell for setting up shots. Oh, and Samsung's hinge is even more sturdy and infinitely positionable. And that, by the way, also makes for more comfy banana phone sessions. TLDR, I love a flip phone camera, and I relish this one. The Flip7 packs a bigger battery than any prior Galaxy Flip, but that produces variable results. On a day that began with binge messaging on a short flight, then wandering a new city on a hot summer day with brightness to the max, surrounded by thousands bogging down the network, firing off a photo or video every few minutes, editing them into social posts, and using Google Maps more often than not, even 4,300 milliamp hours weren't going to last till dinner. And Samsung's slow charging means I had to wait an hour to get back up to 80%. But on more typical days since, I've found the Flip7 to be an all-day phone. And Flip7 benefits from my favorite battery anxiety hack. Until I can get to a charger, I switch to running apps on the cover screen to save juice. Can't do that with a slab phone. If you saw my coverage of the Galaxy S25 Edge and Ultra, Samsung's software story is largely unchanged. To my eye, it's pretty ugly, with customization hidden behind too many layers of paid Galaxy themes that are mostly uglier still. But it's also more consistent and less bug-prone than Motorola's version of Android, and Samsung will support it for longer, while offering updates much more frequently. As for Galaxy AI, I'm content to mostly ignore it, as I still find Google's Gemini to be superior to any manufacturer solution. Just like back in Paris last month, Gemini Live was my tour guide in Pittsburgh, and I was happy for the local knowledge about Pittsburgh, Heinz, and the best sandwich and beer combinations at the airport Primanti's. And to finish on a rare win for what's gotta be one of the smallest fan bases on the planet, DeX desktop emulation is finally on the Galaxy Flip. I tested it on my Nextdock XL review unit and, well, it's not great, because DeX has never been great. Almost every problem I called out in my DeX video from years ago is still here. And it's even worse in some ways because it's wireless only, which leads to performance and significant thermal issues. Whew. Oh, that's toasty. Okay, let's cool down. More to the point, with Android desktop mode just around the corner, DeX feels on the verge of being deprecated. I mean, heck, maybe that's why it hasn't seen any upgrades of note in the past few years, if Samsung knew this was coming. But for now, I am calling this a win, because I did manage to write some of this script in DeX, which was more comfortable than doing it on the phone, and more importantly, because Samsung finally listened to its hardest core customers. And that deserves, at the very least, a golf clap.
Oh, and then there is the processor. Did I notice a switch from Snapdragon to Exynos on this device? No, I did not. And I don't think many people would unless you play a lot of mobile games, which I don't think a lot of people do, at least in this target market segment. Many buyer segments. Why can't I wrote this stuff. Why can't I remember it?
Why don't I say it f***ing right?
So the Flip7 is a compromise in the same way most of Samsung's clamshells have been. If what you want is maximum performance per pound, well, Motorola's Razr Ultra is that. But I still think the Flip7 is the most important flip phone of the year. Because for so many people, Samsung is still synonymous with Android. So its clamshell foldable has to be competitive to ensure the category flourishes. The Flip7 is competitive. And, well, it's not cheap. It is $200 less than the Razr Ultra. Combined with some aggressive trade-in offers, more extensive carrier availability, and a greater service and support framework, the Flip7 is about to spend the next year as the phone most Americans identify with the clamshell category. And I think it finally strikes the right balance of specs and sacrifice to bear that standard properly. Samsung's Galaxy Fold7 is the much bigger evolution year over year, and it's next up on the review desk, so please subscribe to the Mr. Mobile on YouTube so you don't miss it. This video was produced following a full week with a Galaxy Flip7 sample provided by Samsung, but as always, the company had no editorial input or copy approval rights concerning this content. It's a review, not a commercial. Follow me on Threads at Captain2Phones for my thoughts between the reviews. And until next time, from Michael Fisher, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.